Good evening. This is John Warren, publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper, coming to you with our program from the desk of the editor. I always like to remind you that the Voice and Viewpoint is San Diego's oldest African American publication. In print, we have covered 89 zip codes, 17 cities, the unincorporated areas of the county. We are online. We provide copies to many of our churches, our senior centers, and to youth, and so the libraries as well, because we believe in the motto we have that a people without a voice cannot be heard. And so we are serving San Diego's African and African American communities primarily, but we serve all of San Diego, and our readership and participation from you, the public, is inclusive. And so we're excited, and this is what we refer to as Holy Week. This is the time leading up to Easter Sunday. It's also a very exciting time for America, and I'm going to share a little bit in terms of both of those things. You might have seen in what we were doing earlier that we were pushing to let you know that you could participate. This is a call-in, 858-251-6111, or you can go to godradio1.com. You can share your views, your questions, your comments. We'll try to answer if there are questions, and we're excited about this opportunity for dialogue. It goes very quickly. And Dr. Leonard Thompson III is the co-host here. We have an exciting time doing this show. And so we are just thankful. And Dr. Thompson, you want to say a word?
Yes, Dr. Warren, thank you, everybody, for your patience as we are now on a new platform. So we're coming to you from our StreamYard platform. So we are still working through some not technical difficulties, but some technical enhancements.
Yeah.
And so it affords us to be a little bit more personal, up and close with you. So tonight's dialogue, we want to get right into it. I want to encourage everybody, either go to YouTube. Now, here's the good thing. You can see us on YouTube, Facebook, GOD Radio's Facebook, Voice and Viewpoints Facebook. You can also see us on LinkedIn tonight. Just go to Dr. Leonard Thompson's page. You'll be able to see it on LinkedIn. And we want you to chime in. If for every input that you put in, we will be able to see it and we will be able to respond. So good morning to you, or good afternoon, good evening, Miss Yvette Porter Moore. Dr. Warren.
Yes. I wanted to start off by mentioning something from last week. We had the No Kings marches around the country. We have an article on it. Over 9 million people participated nationally, 3,100 sites. Here in San Diego County, we had 18 different demonstrations in terms of the protests for a total of some 77,000 people who came out. 40,000 showed up at the county administration building, which was 20,000 more than a year ago when the first King's demonstration took place. And people had some very interesting signs as they came out. They had one sign that said MAGA stands for America. Morons are governing America. And so people just came up with a lot of things, but it was a very serious time, serious issue, serious absence of larger African-American participation. A lot of people have some different reasons for not participating, but I believe that we should be at every protest because we are the creators and the founders of protests. And so we've made that something very important. So I wanted to throw that out as we move forward into this week here. The TSA problems persist. The shutdown persists. Today, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments on citizenship, which is something that Trump has been fighting for a very long time, going back to his false allegations about former President Obama being a birther. And today it was interesting because Trump went to the Supreme Court and sat in the galleries, which is a first. And his Solicitor General made all kinds of stupid arguments about how people shouldn't be given citizenship at birth, which is a violation of the 14th Amendment, Section 1. And it all narrowed down to a case from 1898 when we were still in the Chinese exclusion mode. And it was ruled in Wang v. Ark, I believe it was. That a whole name doesn't come to mind right now, that anyone born here is a citizen. And so Ketanji, raised some real interesting questions, like, do we let the child get born and then file for a social security number, or just what do we do? And so this is the madness that's ongoing. Meanwhile, 50,000 troops don't know what they're doing over there, waiting around. Trump wants to get out of the war now. He's no longer want to play at that game. He's bad-mouthing our allies, and we got all kinds of issues going. But I keep writing editorials that say that we cannot lose sight of our own struggle in the midst of all of this national attention to him and his insanity. Another thing that happened this week was a federal judge ruled that he had no authority to tear down the East Wing of the White House, and that is not his house, it's the people's house. And so that stopped. And so now we got a hole in the ground because only Congress. Is so unfortunate that they weren't there to talk about Congress when the Library of Congress, which Congress created, had a black woman as his first librarian, and he fired her and nobody said anything when he had no authority to fire her, no more than he had authority to mess with the black woman who's on and one of the governors of the Federal Reserve Board. And so the world is laughing at us, the greatest nation in the world being ruled by a fool, and wondering how do we allow that, because other forms of government have scenarios where when there is a loss of confidence or control, elections are called for, there can be a change, and it's a very interesting form of government they have in terms of the parliamentary scenarios. So here we are with all kinds of things going on. Gas prices are up when they shouldn't be because we produce more oil than anyone else. Cuba was locked down with a blockade, but Trump let a Russian oil tanker through to give gas to Cuba when nobody else could get through. Still supporting and stroking and hugging up with Putin. We can't figure that one out yet. And so here we are in the midst of a lot of things going on. And in a moment, I'll say something about this whole Easter madness. But Dr. Thompson, I don't know if I left anything out during the update. We're still in a budget crisis here in San Diego.
One of the things is that we are here, and while we're on the air right now, there is a state of the, I don't know if they're going to call it the State of the Union or what they're calling it, the speech that he's doing to the I guess the United States, or for the people to go before Congress to talk about what. I don't know if he's going to talk about the war. He's been extending the war and extending the rules, and I'm still trying to figure out if anybody will ever take you serious, because every time you say, if you don't do it in 1 week, we're going to come in. Well, we're going to give you another week. Well, you know what? We're going to give you one more week. Well, you know what? We're going to end the war in about 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 5 or 6. You know what I'm saying? 7, 8, 9, 10. It's just like whatever he says, whatever comes to his mind, that's what he's talking about. And the question that I would come in and say, is anybody really listening to the nonsense?
I don't think anymore, other than the MAGA, his core base, which has shrunk tremendously. They're listening because they'll believe anything that they're told. And, the whole secret thing behind what we see is a conspiracy that says that racism is greater than democracy in America. And that's what it all boils down to, the tearing down of institutions, the anti-DEI, with the refusal for cameras and identification and Gestapo type policemen. He's trying to make himself like Putin in Russia and the president of Hungary. And we're not an authoritarian system, and we're not going to let it happen. And now I understand he signed an executive order canceling elections. He has no authority to do that. Elections are the purview of each state. They're controlled by each state. The people who are sent by the people of the state. and there is no federal election control. There have been federal monitoring, like the Voting Rights Act, because of the kind of stuff that was done in the South to block black people from voting, like count a jar of jelly beans, look at the jar and tell me how many jelly beans, and you can register. All that kind of foolishness, like we saw in the movie Saving Miss Jane Pittman. But as far as going forward, none of this stuff makes any sense. And I hope and I'm praying that as we have these demonstrations, that they will move more inclusively toward voter registration and reinforcing voter participation. Now, the next big demonstration is supposed to take place on May 1st, and it's different in the sense that it's calling for a total government shutdown or shutdown of the economy, if you will, not government, is asking people on that day not to spend any money whatsoever for anything. And that certainly will hit Wall Street. That will certainly hit all of these people who are only worried about money, because you notice when the stock market really gets in trouble, Trump changes his mind, does something different, because that's all he's worried about. And there was a piece done recently that showed that uh, all the people in his cabinet is about a billionaires, and they all gave large sums of money to him, and he put people in positions based on that and not based on anything that they were able to do. And someone has referred to that it was very much like Andrew Jackson when he was president, and the corruption that followed him with the kind of patronage stuff.
So, Dr. Warren, this whole total economy stop. The reality is, we know that not everybody is going to participate in it. The question becomes is, say, for instance, we get 75% of the people to participate in that one day. Will that make a big enough impact if the next day they all go out and buy what they would have bought the day before?
Well, that's a good question. And I've been encouraging from our standpoint, I'm not talking about boycotts, but I'm thinking that we as a people who spend, when I say we, Black folks in particular in this country, spend $4 trillion a year. And so, if we started shopping for what we need and not what we want, because we're going to still have to do business with some people who are not doing business with us, that in alone would reduce the amount of money that folks are getting tremendously. And I always like to remind us that there are only three things that corporate America understands: lost profits, bad publicity, and a vote that's cast against their interests. And so we have the chance to influence those things. And we, African Americans and Blacks, because the Africans are not African Americans, but they're in this country, and many of have citizenship and they vote, we have an obligation to participate so that we're not, there's no such thing as our vote doesn't count. And in a moment, I'll remind you of why.
Well, and that's the biggest thing. Some of the controversy that we've been seeing is stuff like Nicki Minaj supporting Trump. Heard that they're now coming after Nick Cannon and all these people that are, now trying to clarify where they stand or they don't stand in the support of MAGA, Trump, and everything else. Now, a lot of people don't want to hear this, but not everything that the Republicans have come up with has been bad for America. But it's been so couched in all the other manure that you can't see any of the good stuff.
Oh, you got something that we missed that wasn't bad for America?
Well, I still feel like we need to control our borders, and there needs to be a real process. So that's not a bad conversation.
Oh, no.
But the way they're going about it makes it all negative. Versus saying, here, we need to have a bona fide plan that is fair to everybody that's trying to be an immigrant here who could come to our country, including the Haitians, you know what I'm saying, and literally make the process fair and not who makes the most money, not if you can pay a $5 million get into America free card, all that other stuff. But that conversation is not a bad conversation, but how they're going about it and the deportation of how they're going about it is all wrong.
Well, let's say something about the immigration piece. I think it was in 1981 or 86, last time we had a major immigration reform, and we grandfathered in 3 to 6 million people who were in the country at the time and made it possible for citizenship moving forward. We face what every major countries face, like in Germany. I guess because of the guilt from Hitler, at one point they were letting everybody in, and they had to just kind of put a halt to it, slow it up. We just couldn't have. We had people coming up through the Bering Straits by the thousands coming into the country. So yes, it was good that immigration was halted. Nobody is knocking at the door trying to get in. Those elements were good, but it could have been controlled with some humanity. It could have been controlled with some decency, some respect for families and stuff. I always, when I see people arguing about families in terms of immigration, I look at so many black families in America that have not had the benefit of the attention or the time where you know, they talk about the black father being absent, but if you go back and do your research, you'll find that during the Jim Crow era, when there weren't jobs for black men, they had to leave home to look for work. The families went on welfare so they could survive. But then the folks came around at night, looking in the windows, looking under the bed, seeing there was many shoes. And then with the absence of the father, who, like so many men in other scenarios, was sending funds back to take care of the family. It projected them as if they were abandoning families, and that's not the case. They just couldn't find jobs, and it was a setup. Well, this kind of racism persisted when the maquiladores program started in Mexico, for instance, and we started sending things over there to be assembled and then to come back here. They opened these huge warehouses, and most of the Mexicans they hired were females. And then they put stores within these complexes so that they could buy the jeans and the makeup and all of this stuff to be like the American white female, if you will, while the husbands had to sneak across the border or find whatever work they could. And those things, again, divided families. So America's always had this little plan for family division and doesn't want to see people come together in terms of what we're up against. But it's up to us to educate ourselves. It's up to us to realize that we have greater opportunities now than our foreparents had. And they did stuff not because of what was being done to them, but in spite of what was being done to them.
And see, Dr. Ron, that's what's really important is that we have to learn that we have to do our research. We have to pay attention, and we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But when the water is already dirty, you know what I'm saying? Then one, you don't put the baby in it. And so there are a lot of times that we don't get in the fight because of the fact that the water is already dirty and it's already murky. But if we get involved and we are part of something, and we don't just say, is this going to be what it's going to be? But we literally say that we must be a part of the solution instead of a part of the problem. You know, I always tell people, if you can't complain, if you won't get involved, you can't complain if you're not willing to sacrifice. You can't even have a discussion unless you really even talk about it. And many people don't even want to talk about it because it causes too much processing power, if you will.
Well, we've been very fortunate in California because our Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, when she was in the Assembly, one of her biggest fights was for the right for incarcerated people to vote. And even here in San Diego County, if you're in any jail other than a federal institution, you can vote. The homeless can vote. You know, we can register people right up to on election day. And that you can vote what they call a provisional ballot. Back east, when I was running elections, they call them challenge ballots. Mm-hmm. So they can go and verify who you are and your address before they even open it to see if or whether or not they're going to count your vote. So we have those advantages. But I like to remind us, you know, we don't pay enough attention to history. And on the archives in Washington, D.C., where the Constitution and Declaration of Independence are housed, there's a statement etched in stone that says the past is prologue. Mm-hmm. The past is the indication of the future. And let me show you this. In 1964, there was a Supreme Court case called Reynolds v. Sims, which argued that under the 14th Amendment and the Equal Protection Clause, that everybody's vote counted. It was called the one man, one vote principle. Mm-hmm. That has not been overturned. But it's been the best kept secret because we've been programmed to think, well, if I don't vote, it won't make any difference. Yes, it can make a difference. Every vote counts. And I like to give this example. Some years ago, I believe it was in Virginia, they had a situation where there was a tie vote in an election, okay? And I want to tell you how they solved the tie vote. They didn't go back and hold another election. They
Mhm.
put each candidate's name they put each candidate's name in a film container on a piece of paper, dropped it in a basket, shook it up, and let someone pull out, just like you do a lottery, a winning lottery number. And that's the way it was determined where to vote. That shouldn't be.
Mhm.
There are enough of us that should be voting. And I want to tell you, we're buying this myth because we are 3% in the city and 6% in the county, and all of the money that comes from voter registration is going to the Asian and the Latino communities. We don't have to worry about that. All we have to do is show up and vote and not give our vote away too early because so many of us jump on a bandwagon and we shouldn't. We shouldn't be telling people how we're going to vote. They put you in the hip pocket. Then they go, now they got to make a deal with somebody else. They got your stuff for free.
Mhm.
And so that shouldn't be the case. And we're less than 60 days away from the California primary. It's coming.
Mhm.
We got all kinds of games that are already lining up. You know, we have, I can think of at least one city council member that doesn't deserve to come back. And this person is going to get elected because this person is going to ride the coattails of a slate that people want. And so, in so many instances, undesirable people get elected just by being associated with folks. That shouldn't be. And we should not be waiting until the Sunday before the election to have somebody come to church and smile at us and act like they're our friends. If you don't see them interacting, and I say this across the state and across the country, if you don't see them interacting with your newspapers and your radio stations in their communities, then they don't care about you. Because if they cared about you, they would realize they can't win without you. And we
Mhm.
have let people come to think they can win without us, when if it hadn't been for us, there would have never been a Voting Rights Act in the first place.
Mhm.
And now they gutted Section 3 and they going back at it and they picking it apart. And uh, they don't know, for all they got to do is be cloudy and have a little bit of rain. And some of us are not going to come out. You know, Dr. Thompson, many years ago, I was on a ballot in D.C. I'll never forget. It was a rainy day, and I was concerned about how many people were going to come out in the rain to vote because when it rains back there, it's a little different than the way it rains here. We get real rain, okay?
Yeah.
And so I remember this cab pulled up outside the polling place, and it was an elderly lady in the cab, and she was getting out the cab, and I got an umbrella and ran out to the polls. I didn't know who she was or how she was going to vote, but I ran over to the car and helped out the car and said, "Ma'am, let me help you in out of the rain." And she says this to me. She says, "Yeah, I had to come out in the rain because I got to vote for my son John." And she didn't even know she was talking to me. But she came out in the rain because she understood the power of her vote. And it didn't matter that it was raining. It might have been raining on her, but it wasn't raining in her.
Mhm.
Here in California, if it's cloudy, some of us won't even bother to go out. And so I'm going to keep on this campaign. I stay on it because after the election is over, then we're going to be complaining about what happened to us when it's our fault because we didn't participate. And don't make a decision based on the person that spends the most money and you see on television the most. That doesn't mean they're going to win. And don't make a decision based on, I'm going to call out the names, your NAACP or any other organization trying to tell you how to vote. If they haven't been here helping you when things were difficult, when you needed help, when you needed a phone call, don't let them come now, put their name there, flash those initials because it's been 100 and some years and you supposed to vote the way they say. That day is supposed to be over.
Well, Dr. Warren, I think one of the things about it is that for so many people, they're still looking for us to have one leader to represent all Black people. And those days are over also. We all have a mind. We all have to get out there and vote. We all have to be a part of the process. And that is the biggest thing, is that now's the time to do your research, to build relationships, not just vote for the popular or the people that people think are going to win so that we don't try, but really having conversation. What is your true platform? And is your platform even realistic? You know how some people say, look, I'm going to put a chicken in everybody's pot. You know what I'm saying? Well, what if the people don't got a pot? Now what? You know what I'm saying?
Get
So
them the pot.
yeah, we literally have to look at what is reality and what is mythology. And I think we get enamored with the mythology and we don't hear the reality. The reality is that not one person is going to be able to fix everything. They're going to have to be consistent. So, you know, what is it? We're doing 2, 4, 6, and 8. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
it's you know, the even seats are up this year, so 2, 4, 6, and 8, and you know, 4. You know, Henry Foster got in there because he rode on Monica Montgomery's coattail when she went to the Board of Supervisors, and Henry Foster is pretty sure he's going to get reelected, so he don't really care whether anybody get mad or not, and I don't care whether or not Henry Foster gets mad because I wouldn't vote for him. And we got to stop placating people. You know, almost 60 years ago, Ozzie Davis was the keynote speaker at the first Congressional Black Caucus dinner. And I'll never forget the speech that he gave because in that time we were losing people. You know, we've lost King and Kennedy and Malcolm and all of these folks who are being killed every place. And Ozzie Davis, who is no longer with us, he got up and the theme of his speech was, it has to be the plan and not the man. Now, that's important. It's the plan and not the man. And so we should not be looking to any one person to deliver us. And it don't matter about a platform. The only thing is, what's important to you? If jobs are important to you, then ask the question. And if you ask the question and the candidates start giving you a long answer, scratch them off right there on the spot because they're just burning time and don't intend to answer. Anybody who's afraid to take a stand on the issue, you shouldn't be voting for. There's no way you should be voting for. And anybody who is just running because they dislike somebody, other than in the case with Trump, see, he gave us so much beyond him. It's not a question of whether or not you like him. It's a question of whether or not we can save America by voting against him and the kind of crazy people that he's put in office who all seem to be drinking the same Kool-Aid that he's drinking. And so this is what we have to do. We have to get serious before June 2nd, not on at June 2nd, but before June 2nd, before the primary. Ask questions. We're going to have some forums out there, okay? And don't let a forum be a place where you go and you go there and somebody is just standing up and giving you the history. Well, you know, my mama lived here and I grew up in the neighborhood. So what? What's that got to do with whether or not you're going to deliver in terms of a vote that's needed? If it's going to change the rent structure here, where rents are too high, where we're going to deal with the fact that we have all these empty buildings with condos and things that people are getting tax write-offs when the city council could move to pass a law that says that a building sits empty for X amount of time, you got to pay a penalty tax on that. And maybe we could open it up and add some housing based on already there. Stop listening to this argument about affordable housing. The issue is not affordable. The issue is available housing. And there's a lot of housing out there that's available, but it's not being used by the people that need it.
And you know, Dr. One, I hear where you're coming from. I like to talk to what I call the neophyte voters, the voters that might not have engaged in the past, the voters that might be disenchanted by the process. I don't want anybody to get confused about what is taking place. There's a lot of times we only focus on one district or one election, but you know, again, we have to think of all the elections from the local elections all the way up to the national election because they all play a role in it. And again, I will push not just one person, one office is going to be able to do it all. We're going to have to look across the board. And I believe in going to, like, if, say, for instance, I live in District 4. Well, District 4 is just one district in the city, but there are other districts that got to go with District 4 to even get things to move. So I want to go and see who's going to be elected in the other areas and see if I can work with them because, again, it is about collaborative work. We're going to have to reach across the aisle and work together. And if we can get that in the United States, where they will start reaching across the aisle and stop being, I'm a Republican, like it's a game, you know what I'm saying? And we just gonna hold everybody hostage. Today, I will consistently say, I don't know how anyone can sit up there and vote for the Republicans at this point, as we're looking at in California. I had to look at an $8 gas ticket per gallon. You know, they say, oh, well, that, no, I looked at it. It's impacted me. I don't care that you say it's going to go down after the war stops. I'm impacted right now. If you're TSA, not only are you affecting their livelihood, people are leaving their jobs, but you're affecting all the travelers, all this economy. And I'm like saying, enough's enough. We got to hold everybody accountable.
Well, you know, this is the thing. We had Proposition 50 here, and Proposition 50 reapportioned some districts so that we could add Democratic seats. Darrell Issa was smart enough to quit and not run again because that district, which was so Republican, is going to turn Democratic. We have 52 members of Congress from the state of California. And 12 of those have been Republicans because we didn't pay attention to the seats. The House of Representatives had a margin with the Republicans holding office by no more than 6 to less than 10 votes made the difference in terms of Hakeem Jeffries being the ranking minority leader and becoming speaker instead of crazy Mike Johnson. And so now the projections are that the Democrats are on a path to possibly pick up as many as 35 seats. And I keep reminding folks that there are 8 black women running for the Senate across the country, and we could pick up both houses. And I keep reminding us that that's going to be enough for us to be able to impeach Trump and not have to wait 4 years to get rid of him. Because as long as the Republicans control the Senate, we can't go any place with impeachment. And the House, the impeachment has to originate in the House under the Constitution, and the trial has to go to the Senate. And, you know, we impeached him twice before and couldn't get no place because of the control there. So these are very serious times, folks. And if you're talking about $8, Dr. Thompson, $8 a gallon. And the people on the news, CNN and them, are talking about folks paying $5. People been paying $5 in California forever. And then we're talking about $6, $7, $8, and it's going up. And people have to choose between you're going to have gas to get to work or how you're going to eat. The food lines are growing in the state. People are hurting. Mm-hmm. And let's harness what we have, folks. You know, it wouldn't help if we stopped going to churches and Popeyes and McDonald's and Jack in the Box and all these places where the prices just keep going up and away. Food is not the healthiest thing you should have in the first place. And you could take that same money and go to the grocery store and go home and fix the meal and have some family gathering like we used to have before everybody got hooked on being away from home.
Yeah. And also the instant economy. Everything is on the move. We don't sit down long enough to share family dinner. But I want to go back to Hakeem Jeffries. You know, again, Dr. Warren, I don't want to be skeptical, nor do I want to be cynical. But, you know, always how you say all kinfolk ain't skinfolk ain't kinfolk.
Right.
You know, and my whole energy is I would need to actually see Hakeem Jeffries in the position and literally see him do something other than saying, well, the Democrats are in control. Because the Democrats have been in control before, and we didn't see the movement that we thought we should see.
Well, Dr. Thompson, that issue is almost academic at this point because the first thing we know is the Democrats being in control cannot be worse than what's happening with Trump in control.
Now, that's true.
Okay, so that's first and foremost, number one. We got people in congressional districts in this county that I don't support. And I've always spoken about the way they ignore our communities, okay? You know, I just can't help myself. I just have to be very specific.
Yes.
A lot of people went out of their way to get Sarah Jacobs elected. And she really has not done a lot in terms of any of us. She got into office because Susan Davis stepped down. That was an opening that was created there. And I will always question how that happened so she didn't have to run against an incumbent to get elected. And I wouldn't vote for Sarah Jacobs, but I had to vote for her the last times that she ran because she's a Democrat, number one, and the Democrats need every vote in the House if we're going to flip it to get back to being able to change the things that need to be done. So I held my nose and voted for somebody that I have no political respect for, just because it helps what the overall picture is. Well, why did you do that to John Warren? I did that because you might not remember, but when Obama was first running for president, and people in a number of places were afraid of letting a black man be in the White House, and this state was blue and Democratic, there were white pockets of people who went to the Midwest where there were more white folks and volunteered from California to do phone banks for them to help them get out the vote to try to defeat this black man. Mm-hmm. Okay. We have to stop being afraid to reach across state and county lines. In Washington, D.C., one time we were under such control because it's a federal city that one of our former members of Congress went into the districts of each of those. They were called Dixiecrats then instead of Republicans. All weren't Republicans. They were Democrats, but they were Democrats that act like Republicans. Mm-hmm. And so the Dixiecrats, they went into their districts and found people to run and campaign against them. Yeah. That's what we should be doing for every person in that house that has not been working to solve our issues, who took an oath and swore to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and sit back and let Trump just mess over every rule of law, everything that happens. Those people don't deserve to be in office. I don't care how much money they have. And we have enough people to vote more than the money that they have. Money cannot always guarantee that you will get elected. And we need to be on the stick with that. So these are very serious times. And we got people that we wouldn't necessarily support, but we need to look at who's running and how they're running and what the alternatives are. Mm-hmm. That's what we need to be doing.
Yeah. And I also want to say that after the elections are done and people are in position, we all still got to work together. And I always tell people it might be hard, it might be frustrating, but again, for us to move forward, whoever is in office, we must work together. So I've been challenging people that you could have the people that you want to support or not support. But at the end of the day, especially as a community, as a nation, we still have to come back to the table and say what's going to be the best for the good of the whole entire body, and then also pushing our interests. Now, again, Dr. Warren, my interest, because you and I disagree, because I did not want to pay for no trash. and to this very day, I'm gonna stand on that. I'm upset that I got to pay after all these years. I'm be 61 years old and on Friday. And Dr. Warren, I still don't want to pay for the trash. And I know that you've had to pay for the trash. And see, this is what I talk about, where we might disagree on an issue, but we still got to work together. I'm still going to complain about it every time I got to pay that trash bill, and I'm gonna be really upset. At some point, I might bring the trash over to your jar, your house, and your trash say, well, since you paying for it anyway, let me just put some trash over here.
Okay, I pay for trash pickup for my business, and I always have ever since I've been in business. And when I lived in East County, I had to pay for trash pickup. And matter of fact, I had two dumpsters out there because of the number of horses that I had. I had one dumpster for the trash and one dumpster for the manure. Of course, when springtime came, all my neighbors came wanting the manure for their gardens and stuff. So that helped some, but I've always had to pay. And so that's why, I can't get excited about you all just about to pay for trash pickup. And the tragedy is, they spent, was it $6 million to study the trash pickup? That money could have gone to substitute for you all having to pay for trash. Mm-hmm. But this is what happened when people don't vote, don't pay attention to who's running, don't go to city council, don't watch the council on the news, and they run the meetings on there. You don't get involved, And then when something goes wrong, let me tell you, having said it,
but I want to say something, Dr. Warren. See that the trash issue is bigger than just we're going to be charged for trash. See, they start thinking like this. Well, that we could get trash picked up cheaper by negotiating the trash out to a private company. You know what I'm saying? But if we do that, then we got all these people that we'd have to lay off that would also impact the economy. So really, we're paying for trash so that we can keep trash workers and are still employed, and they get paid much higher than the other trash.
But Dr. Thompson, let me tell you, that's not unusual, okay? In the state of New Jersey, let me give you an example of how they keep people employed. New Jersey is one of two states that you cannot pump your own gas in. Okay. If you pull up to the pump in New Jersey, somebody has to come out and pump your gas. That's an employment plan right there. Mm-hmm. When you land at the airport in New Jersey, at Newark International Airport, they got people standing all over the place to point you to the elevator. They got nice little badges and stuff. Well, you can see the elevator, but they pay them to point you to the elevator. If you have a banquet or a dinner or something, you really get an education in New York, because what happens? The people who put the plates on the table belong to one union. The people who put the tablecloths belong to another union. The people who put the silverware out belong to another union. And so all of this is called full employment in terms of making sure that people keep their folks paid and they keep greasing the skids, all right? And so California didn't have to grease them before now, but because we don't vote, if we voted, we wouldn't have to go through that, because those institutions back there are so old, Dr. Thompson, that they are nailed down tight. Okay, we still got chances here because we don't have a lot of things that are grounded in concrete and tradition, and we got more flexibility if we use it. And
so let me ask you this question. So let's revisit was it the 1 cent sales tax or the 1% sales tax? Do you think that that's coming back? And do you think that we need to go ahead and just do it so that we can stop paying for trash?
Oh, you won't stop paying for trash. Even if it comes back, you're not going to stop paying for trash. You're going to still get charged for trash. And let me tell you about the sales tax. About 15 years ago, we had a sales tax situation where National City did a sales tax, okay, because they were trying to raise more revenue.
Exactly.
It backfired because instead of shopping in National City, they went to Chula Vista, came to San Diego, where they didn't have a sales tax that was equivalent to what they were paying there.
Exactly.
So you don't have any guarantee on the sales tax. And once the tax is set in motion, the only tax I know that's ever been repealed in San Diego was the toll that was on the Coronado Bridge.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I ever know where they stopped paying after they got it done, as opposed to keep on paying. When they built 125 out there, going to East County, it's got a toll road. It's got all kinds of things attached to it, and they're trying to keep the money coming in every instance. They don't cancel tolls here. They've canceled them in some other places where they've just exceeded whatever was involved. But it's the people voting that makes the difference, Dr. Thompson. And that's the problem that we have.
Well, I want to start a campaign right now to repeal the trash tax and the trash fees. All that in our favor. Y'all join me. We're going to have it repealed and make them find something.
Then all you have to do, the people running for office in districts 2, 4, 6, and 8, if you're really concerned, make the first question at any forum, are you in favor of repealing the tax, the trash tax?
Okay.
And if they say yes or no, if the trash tax is important to you and they say no, then don't vote for them.
Okay.
If they try to lie to you about it and they don't answer you, don't vote for them. But you got to look at what you're losing in terms of the alternative.
Yeah.
Because a vote against one person can be a vote that's not in your interest for another. So you got to do your homework.
And the reason why I'm making a big deal about this, Dr. Warren, is simply this. And I don't know about you because you've been paying for your trash for a very long time. But what I'm making a big deal about is that before they start charging me for my trash, I had trash cans.
Yeah.
I had a green one.
Yeah.
I had a blue one.
Right.
And I have a black one.
Right.
Now that they're going to charge me for it, now they're going to say, we're going to give everybody brand new trash cans. You get to pick your sizes. And I'm like sitting up here like, well, where did all this money come from to get these new trash cans Why can't we just use the same trash cans and lower my bill? So there's something fishy in the mix.
Of
Somebody is getting
course.
their hands greased because I don't need a new trash can, and then they want to try to tell me that they're going to recycle these trash cans
Of
into something
course.
that we can use.
They'll sell them to another country and they're going to make some money back. But Dr. Thompson, let me let you know that even though I pay for trash, they didn't let me off the hook. The Environmental Services Department came after us because we didn't sign up. Okay. And I had to go and get a letter from my waste management company to show them that I've had a contract for trash pickup to get them to back off of fining us for not signing.
Yeah.
And so we just need to pay attention. We didn't mean to spend so much time on this whole trash issue, but there are just so many issues going on, folks. And
well, Dr. Warren, I want to say I did because I think that is really important. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
This is the type of engagement. You got to ask yourself, what is important to you? You know what I'm saying? It could be, kids in school. It could be the recreation program. It could be the library. You have to find out what is important to you, what is valuable to you, and then get involved through elections, through community engagement to literally get it done. Because again, we've gone through the pandemic, but it's not over.
No.
We've gone through the floods. It's not over. It's
No.
still happening. And those people that are not engaged, it seems like it's being done to them, but it's really not. It's that you didn't engage, so you didn't know it was happening.
Well, but you had an opportunity to come out and find out what was happening.
Yes.
Okay. And that's been the issue. I'm telling you that when you sit on a dais in terms of an elected official and you look at the people who come to speak before council, I don't care how many of them come. After a while, you can pretty much tell who's going to stay, when they're going to leave, what they're going to say. And a lot of folks listen because that most of them don't vote. The people who've gotten elected, let's look at the 4th and the 8th district. I mean, the last time the election in the 4th district, there was less than 10,000 people that elected this person. Okay, maybe all the people voting together weren't but 10,000, but you got a couple 100,000 people that are registered voters. Where were it? They didn't bother to vote. They don't bother to come out and participate. And so those who want to control, who have money, they make it a point to cherry pick. There are only certain people that's getting stuff in the mail in terms of campaign materials, okay? And they're getting that. They're not coming back so much, even though our registered voters will use you and me and our vehicles in terms of reaching people. And people will carry the voice and viewpoint recommendations on their phone into the voting booth and vote that way. But these people are counting on reaching folks. Remember, in California, there are more independents registered than Republicans in the state because people are no longer registering just in terms of party because the parties have failed them.
Exactly.
And the Democrats have been lousy. The Democrats recycle the same old people all the time, don't listen or try to do anything new, allow themselves to be painted as extreme left wing. Everybody who is a Democrat is not a leftist person. So Democrat and left are not synonymous terms because we have concerns just like people. We used to have an expression on the board when I was in undergraduate school at Howard, and it said, a liberal is one whose interest is not at stake, and a person becomes conservative when they have something to conserve.
Yes.
And so you can be a Democrat and be conservative because you have something to conserve, like you're trying to conserve your dollars on trash. That's important to you, that you conserve it. But we can't do it alone. And our problem is that technology and social media has let us fall into the trap of thinking that all we have to do is hold our cell phone, ignore everybody, and it's going to be okay. You cannot live as an isolated individual in a society that still values numbers and count people.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
And one of the things about it is, I know that we're in a digital world, but at the same point, when you are doing what I call strategic planning, you use everything to your skill set. And that means like if you're at war, we got a great Navy, but if all you have a Navy, you're going to lose. We got a great air campaign, but if that's all you have, you're going to lose because If I know that you got an air campaign, all I got to do is dig deep enough, and you're not going to do too much to me. I'm going to be in my bunker. Just let you bomb all the thing. Many times you're going to have to bring the ground troops in. You're going to have some reconnaissance. So it's the same way when we are seeking out information. Google is not the only place, and that's AI, Google, when you say ask Google or Siri or anything of that nature, and they're giving you information based on information that they have in their database.
Oh, yeah.
But there's certain the information that is actually being feeded into those databases to control responses.
And let's just say, please do not turn to Chat GPT to help you decide who to vote for.
Well, or that. My thing is that you could say, you could literally say, these are the things that I'm looking for in a candidate. These are the issues that I have. Who fits these things? And now I would say ChatGPT and some of these other places will give you people that will fit, what your agenda is. But again, once they give it to you, you still have to do the real research. You still have to, you have to really do the real talk, because it's something to see what's on paper and then actually to sit with a person, have a real conversation, and really have dialogue. And here's the thing. Do I only hear from you during election time?
Of course.
Or can I pick up the telephone and call you at any point, call your office and get a response?
I haven't heard from any candidates other than election time. And when they come around at this time of year and start calling and wanting to have a editorial meeting, I'm not interested. If you were doing something, I would have heard of you and know about you. And it's kind of late, now that you want to come and blow smoke and the whole thing, we're just not interested in it.
And the thing about it, there are a lot of candidates that are now coming forth, and they're looking for what they call the Holy Grail, sitting down and trying to find out how to get the Black population, how to get the community population. And the thing about it is, if you have to ask us that question, you're not ready to engage with this community.
Well, and then there's also the question of why are people running for office? That's so important, okay? Because the office, you should be running out of a desire to serve. Mm-hmm. And most people are running because they got other agendas and they think that getting elected will help them with those agendas. There's no reason that we should have 12 Democrats running for governor, okay? Shouldn't be. And then, we got all kinds of politics going on here that we just aren't involved because our education system in terms of civics does not teach people how to be politically engaged, okay? It's by design. And I still say that the people who come into this country, make application for citizenship, get the citizenship package that's advertised on Univision, and study it and learn the Constitution, Declaration, and all those things, they know more about government than the very people who were born here and grew up here that didn't bother to pay attention.
And Dr. Warren, the one big thing about it is this is the season that we're going to have to pay attention. This is the season that we're going to have to get involved. And involvement, engagement there's many ways to be involved and many ways to be engaged. It's not always the standard ways of being engaged, but that you can be engaged, because I know someone whom you might never see at any of the meetings, but they're on every Zoom. They're at the meetings. They're literally listening.
Yes, we know.
And those are the things. And then when they come out,
they always prepared. They got their homework. Yeah. Dr. Thompson, I want to take a couple of minutes in what's remaining to say something about Easter and what we're going through right now. This has been tagged the Holy Week. It's time of Passover in terms of the Jewish community. The Christian community is celebrating the end of Lent, the crucifixion of Christ, the resurrection on the third day. And, the Lord is so wonderful that he honors the things that we have done to honor him. Jesus was not born in December, but because we chose that to honor him, the spirit of giving and Christmas permeates that time of year. The Good Friday scenario has always been a misrepresentation because Christ was taken on a Wednesday. He was crucified on a Thursday morning, and then he rose on a third day, which was a Saturday, because a Saturday was the Sabbath. The Sunday being our Sabbath day, is a creation of Constantine when he converted the Roman Empire to Christianity. And the proof of that is in the fact that Sunday is spelled S-U-N as opposed to S-O-N, which would be the Son's Day, which would be Christ the Son's Day. Nevertheless, uh, the Father has honored this. He's honored our observances and our commitment. And so it's not a technical thing, but I'm saying this because it's so important that we have Christ in this observance if we um, are Christians, if you will, even though Jesus wasn't a Christian, but if we are, because you got the egg thing is nice for the kids. The reality is a bunny has never laid an egg. Okay, but we go out there and let them chase it, just like we hook on a Christmas tree. And so, okay, these are traditional things, and we're not killing the joy of it, but let's not get so carried away that we miss out. We got churches that are going to have a sunrise service on Sunday, and for believers, uh, we ought to be up praising the Lord every sunrise. The Muslim community, 5 prayers a day. And I know people saying, well, they getting into religion. Well, you know what? First Amendment, freedom of speech. I'm entitled to share my points of view. And as a believer, I think we have an obligation to encourage people to stay focused, okay? Just like, this system does not want us to have Christ in anything, but everything that has taken Christ out has collapsed and failed. All right. And yes, we can work with people who do not share our religious beliefs. We can partner with the Muslims or the Hindu to the extent of our interest as a part of humanity in the community. We don't have to abandon our faith to be associated with people who have a right to choose to believe differently. And so here's this week that we're in, and it's important because we don't want you feeling bad or guilty. In our days coming along, everybody got dressed for new clothes for Easter Sunday, and you felt bad if you didn't have anything and all that. You don't have to do all of that. Okay, those traditions, a lot of them are gone, but the main thing is to understand the sacrifice that Christ made on our behalf, and in doing that, we honor him by keeping the commandments and celebrating what he died for in terms of us. Just wanted to share that.
Well, Dr. Warren, always good information. I think more than anything else, like they say, Jesus is the reason for the season.
Always.
This is so important to us symbolically as Christians because without him, his crucifixion, his death, burial, and him rising again, there would be no grounds for repentance or no remission of sin. But it was the shedding of his blood, and so this is a very important time that not only are because these are the what is it, the three Sundays that people come to church, Christmas, Easter, and Mother's Day.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? This is one of those times that we engage. And somebody said, what would just be the Easter message or the Resurrection Sunday message that should be preached? And I'll be just simple like, he did it for you. Now what?
That's right. That's the message.
That's the message because he did it for you. And he's like saying, okay, I done did what I got to do. Now it's up to you. And that's why he said, I stand at the door and knock. He said, if any man, woman, boy, or girl will come in, I will sup with them, come in with them. But we have to make choices. And some of the things that we're going through during this time, Dr. Warren, is because we have chosen to go a different direction than the direction that we know that we're called to be.
And Dr. Thompson, I mention this because when we look back at the civil rights movement and the protests and the demonstrations, prayer was a key part of everything that took place. And prayer is what brought us through the beatings and the dogs and the hoses and the whole thing. It wasn't just us because we knew we had a right. And so it is our desire to have us return to prayer and to the ways that brought us this far. And we just can't have a national day of prayer when there's a crisis. Mm-hmm. We need to be engaged so that it will influence how we treat each other. When prayer was taken out of the schools and institutions, the litigation in this country tripled because people were suing more, and we having more conflicts and protests because of the absence of that factor. And so we're excited, and we hope that you will be prayerful. We thank you for joining us this evening and for your time. Maybe something that was said was helpful. If anything we said upset you, then let the upset be good for you. That's the way pearls are made in oysters, through irritation. And we thank you.
That is from the desk of the editor with Dr. John Warren. You all be blessed, and we hope to see you next Wednesday right here on GODradio1.com. Good evening.